A very warm welcome to everybody present here today. We are indeed glad to be holding this discussion between Texprocil and its esteemed members and BAA and the governing body and members of BAA. I would especially like to welcome Mr. Manoj Patodia, Chairperson, Texprocil, Mr. Sunil Patwari, Vice Chairman, Texprocil, Dr. Siddharth Rajagopala, Executive Director, Mr. Vinay Kotak, Director, Kotak & Co., Mr. Nachimuthu, MD Atlas Exports and Chairman of Karur Exporters Association, Dr. Selvaraj, General Secretary of SAIMA, Mr. Avinash Sarman, VP Pratibha Suntex, and Mr. Amit Shah, Spectrum Industries. On behalf of BA, we welcome all of you. I would like to also extend our warmest welcome to all the GB members of BA, our chairperson, Mr. Vishal Dhingra, our patron in chief, Mrs. Christine Rai, other members of the governing body, and the members of BA and members of Texprocil. So today, indeed, after a very long time, we are getting together on this platform for another very healthy discussion. There have been a lot of discussions regarding what is happening on organic cotton, and other matters with the COVID happening. So we thought it's a good point today to start a discussion again and to see how we can promote our trade forward. Before we begin our questions and discussions, I'd like to invite our chairperson at BA, Mr. Vishal Dhingra, for his opening speech. Vishalji, may I request you to please come forward?
Thank you, Anchal. Thank you very much. And good morning, Mr. Patodia and your team, Dr. Siddharth, my dear friend Tushar, and Amit Uparelia, both the brothers. And thank you all for sparing your valuable time today for this meeting with BA. I look forward to your input, sir, along with your team and guidance for the export community at large. Because as as long as the export community is strong, so are the buying agents. So we need your inputs there so as to basically resulting in a stronger future of the country and for the people who are employed in this trade, either directly or indirectly, sir. My personal association with the Texprocil and his past chair, Mr. Amit Ruparelia and Tushar, goes back almost like 30 years when they set up their first plant in Kandla, importing the first machine, the long arm single needle quilting machines, actually, which was unheard of in India way back in the late 80s, early 90s. So that's how long my association is with them. And also, I was very fortunate to spend time in your offices in New York City when you opened up the Texprocil office. Under the able guidance, I believe in those days, it was Amit Ruparelia and Dr. Siddharth who had their offices there. And I spent a lot of time there trying to learn how exactly Texprocil sold Indian product to various retailers in the US and also to all the trade bodies in the US who were still not aware about the Indian product. We did not compete against Pakistan. We did not compete against China. They offered the best product, the higher end. I remember selling all the thread counts in the sheeting and the top of the bed. And that's how, in the past 25 years, I've seen our business grow from the likes of Trident, Alok, Welspun, and others. Today, when we meet, I seek your guidance. And of course, you just spoke about the organic cotton and other cottons. How exactly we can ensure the supply and the pricing of the cotton all across the country so that India can be a regular source of product to the world outside of the country. We have had those issues in the past. In the COVID times, I can understand the fluctuations in the market, in the pricing, be it for cotton, be it for metal, be it for wood. But since we are here with Exposal today, we would like to understand from your perspective, since you control most of the cotton out there, how exactly you can help us, the export community and eventually the buying agent community, to sell India better outside the country, sir. And that's all I really have to say. But the only thing is, if Exprosel can basically guide us and the vendors, uh, I see phenomenal amount of growth, maybe a billion or two additional dollars from India uh, as at the as the end product or the value added product actually going out from the country. I'll request now Mr. Patodia to speak a few words and guide us and the community, sir, please.
Thank you, Dingraji. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Texpusil, I welcome Mr. Vishal Dhingra, Chairperson, BA, and all the members of BA. I also welcome Mr. Avinash Karman, Vice President, Pratibha Syntex, Mr. Amit Shah, Spectrum Industries Private Limited, Mr. Vinay Kotak, Director, Kotak & Company, Mr. Nachimuthu, MD, Atlas Exports, and also Chairman of Karur Exporters Association, for agreeing to join us for this interactive meeting and share their views today. To give an introduction about Texpusil, we promote export of cotton yarn, fabrics, home textiles, and made-ups. With a membership base of over 2,000 companies spread across the country, Texpusil undertakes various export promotion activities in all major importing countries as well as emerging markets. Some of the activities are providing policy-related inputs to Ministry of Textiles, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Finance, and representing exporters' grievances with GST Council, DGFT, and custom authorities. Market research, organizing group participations of members in various international trade fairs, exhibitions, as well as specific B2B meetings. To help member exporters to keep pace with changing business modules, Texpusil is the first council to work towards launching an exclusive members B2B marketplace to connect with prospective importers across the world on real-time basis. We will share more details in the next few days with the Buying Agents Association with a request to post their requirements in sourcing textiles from India. While on this, we acknowledge and appreciate the role of the buying agents in supporting Indian exporters in promoting their businesses. Buying Agent Association can do more than just sourcing by interacting continuously with members of Texpusil. Even though most of the buying agents are focusing on product development, it is equally important to do market development. Looking at the strengths and capabilities of Indian manufacturers of textiles, focused efforts should be undertaken in exploring right markets. The council can work closely with the Buying Agents Association in exploring business opportunities in new markets, especially for fabrics and made-ups. All of us are aware that several chain stores, importers, and buying agents are keenly pushing the exporters towards compliance requirements, whereas the return on the investment on compliance is not matching with expenses involved. We request the buying agents to negotiate better price levels to incentivize the exporters to follow various compliance requirements so as to get a win-win deal for everyone in the value chain. It is important that the buying agents should work collectively with Indian exporters to stop diversion of orders to other competing countries, such as Bangladesh and Vietnam. Even without raw material base and insufficient backward integration, these countries are recording better export performance than India. Apart from tariff discrimination, Indian companies are better equipped to meet the demand. However, we are unable to grow at a faster pace. Buying agents should play a major role in increasing overall exports of textiles from India. I'm sure today's interactive session between the members of the council and BA will be enlightening and help us achieve higher growth rates in export performance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Patodia. Thank you so much for your thoughts. It indeed is important for our industry in terms of exporters and buying agents to be working together towards the common benefit of improving trade and increasing exports out of India. And that is the idea, as you well said today, that we are going to collectively work towards taking this forward. Now, I'd like to take forward the different matters that we would like to discuss today. The first question that few of our members wanted to understand from Texpusil was the Texpusil's view on cotton and its pricing in the long and the short run. Dr. Rajagopala, may I request you to please lead the proceedings on this and help us with the names of people who would be taking it forward?
Thank you very much, Anchal, for this. I think we have a few experts here on cotton. I'll start straight away with Mr. Vinay Kotak,
Sure.
So from Kotak Securities, he understands cotton better than anybody else here. So Kotak Saab, Vinay Saab, can you give your views on how we look? What is your take on the cotton as we move forward?
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to the Texprocil and the president. I would like to first brief a little about our position in the map of the world as far as cotton is concerned. We are the second largest cotton producer in the world. We are the second largest consumer in the world, and we are second largest exporter in the world. But that second largest exporter has come down to now third largest. So we are going down in our export competitiveness. You see, India's consumption has gone up by leaps and bounds in last about a decade, or say at least very fast in last 5 years, because the government has been giving, each state has been giving a subsidies for the spinning mills and the textile units. Therefore, the consumption has gone up at a galloping rate, whereas the production has not gone up to the same extent. The production could not reach the space for two reasons. One is we have a rain-fed area about 70%, whereas our irrigation requirement is much more. We are increasing our irrigation by only 2 to 3% a year. So we are lagging behind in the irrigated area. So if you see Pakistan or even North India, it's 100% irrigated. So we are dependent very much on the rain. And last 2-3 years, the rains have been either excess or it comes late. So it spoils the harvest and the quality of the cotton. So these are the main thing why our production is not keeping so much space as the consumption. Today, the cotton growing areas consumption, I will just give an example. Just 6 or 7 years back, the Gujarat state spinning mills consumption was hardly 1.5 million bales, which is today 7 million bales. And I won't be surprised it will touch 8 million bales in the next 2 years. Because they have advantage of proximity of the crop, and it becomes very competitive for them for buying. So, and they are getting a very good subsidy from the state government. Same way, each state government, without seeing how much expansion is going on beyond the requirement, the subsidies are given and the consumption is going up. Now in India, because of non-irrigation, number one. Number two, seeds problem. Government has, given they are controlling the seed price. Because of that, the seed companies are not going for any new varieties or new generation seeds, because it doesn't make sense for them economically. Because of that, the yield is going down. Since India's yield has been up from 500, it has come down now to 450, 440. So it has gone down by 10% in the last 3 years. So this is another reason why the crop is not increasing so much. So we have to really, and the third thing is that government every year keeps on increasing minimum support price. But minimum support price may not be enough for the increasing the farmers' income. The real fact is that there should be increase in the yield. So all organizations put together must work with government to ensure that the good seeds are supplied to farmers and the yield goes up. So this is the our situation in the cotton map. Now I'll give you a picture about the pricing. The Indian cotton during this season has been cheapest in the world. We have been cheapest in the world. But our export so far, I think, is about 6 million bales. Projected this in this season is 6.5 million bales. We already exported about 6 million bales. So about 500,000 bales still will go. We have a record of exports of even 8.5 million bales, but we are not able to do that because our qualities have gone down. This year, the rains, the last moment spoiled the quality. So we are not able to export our good quality cotton is in scarce. Now, the prices have gone up in the last 6 months because of 2-3 reasons. Number one reason is because of MSP operations, the CCI got about 9 million bales purchases. The chunk of the stock went in the hands of government central agency CCI. Plus, there is also another now group which is MNCs. They are also playing with the futures and taking the stock. The second big stock has gone in their hands. So if you see the total stock position, the location of the stock in very strong hands. So the market cannot go down, could not go down. It kept on increasing. Of course, there is a production and consumption gap. Plus, when we were very cheap, there was export demand, and now we are outpriced. Because the cotton prices have gone up about, I would say, about 30% in the last 6 to 8 months. And now we are incompetitive in cotton, incompetitive in the yarn. This is the present price situation. So right now, export probably is 0. This is the situation. The another problem now, very recently it has come up, is the import duty. The government has put 10% import duty in all imports. So the threat over the price is gone. The stockholders doesn't worry because there is a duty of 10% on duty on import of cotton. So that is another factor which has put fuel in the fire. And we have an extra long staple requirement about 1.5, between 1.5 to 2 million bales, whereas our production is hardly 500,000 bales. So we have to depend on American Pima as well as Egyptian cotton for the 60s, 80s yarn production and value-added products. So that we are becoming now incompetitive because of the import duty, and the share of our export market is likely to be diverted to Bangladesh, Pakistan, and also Vietnam. So this is a big threat for our future, which we have to, I think Texprocil is making their all efforts to pursue government to lift this duty. But we still have to work on it till it really happens. Now, regarding cotton price scenario for the future, it's a totally now weather-driven market. As of now, it looks that the weather is good. Rains have started almost on time. If everything goes right, we are expecting at least 5 to 7% increase in the yield. So the farmers got a fantastic price this year, and they're well protected by increase in MSP price. So we are expecting at least 5 to 7% increase in the yield. I mean 5 to 7% in the land. And if the weather plays a good role, then there will be at least 5 to 7% again increase in the yield as compared to last year. So we can easily get 4 crores crop if these two things happens. So most important thing is weather. Another very big change which has taken place in the last 2 years is the seed price, that is cotton seed price, have gone up by almost 40 to 50%. Because the government has put a duty on edible oil, and that's why the cotton seeds have gone up, because the oil prices have gone up. So the farmers are getting better kapas price. So likelihood, if the seed prices are maintained, which is likely to happen, the next year MSP operation will be less. CCI will be buying less cotton because the seed cotton prices are high, the kapas price will remain high, though the lint will be very reasonable. So if the kapas prices are high, CCI may not enter for the MSP operations. The stock is likely to be less in the hands of CCI. It will be more into free market. So that will keep our cotton prices also under very reasonable levels, at least from November to March. Then, of course, it depends on, between that depends on the world market also. But looking to all this situation, I'm quite optimistic for cotton in the next season, as well as a very good time for the spinning and the textile industry in India. So I think I have tried to give us, as much as possible in brief, the situation of the cotton in India. So any questions, any specific question is there, you can ask.
I think, Anchal, we get 1 or 2 more perspectives quickly.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, then I'll ask Mr. Avinash Karmakar, Vice President of Farm Initiatives of Pratibha Syntex. Avinashji, can you come in and give a quick overview from your point of view on cotton?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, team Texprocil, team BA, and thank you so much for having me here. And I'm really delighted to be here. Just a brief introduction about Pratibha Syntex. We are a farm to fashion sustainable textile vertical. So we have our farm groups where we are producing organic cotton for our own supply chain, and I look after that part of business. And I think in the fashion industry, that end of the supply chain is one of the most glamorous end, which has not been given due attention. But recently, it has got really good attention. As Vinayji was telling, this is so much climate dependent, the whole agriculture. So naturally, the climate is a matter of great concern, not only for government, civil societies, and even consumers now really worried about this climate, and they are trying to do their contribution. They are contributing to the positive change in the climate. So in this context, the organic cotton, the organic activities become really of great importance. And I think almost all big and small brands have their sustainability commitment. They are committed to buy sustainable raw material for their supply chain. And this particular thing has brought all these brands down to the other end of the supply chain, the farmers, the farm groups. Now they are so much focused on farming activities and their sustainable practices that they are mapping their supply chain up to farm level. So these brands know which farmer has produced what kind of cotton for them. So in terms of
Avinaji, just to we'll come to organic cotton a little later in the next section. Just your thoughts on overall cotton scenario, sir.
See, I belong to the fraternity who is working only in the cotton, organic cotton sector.
Okay,
so
fine.
I think
Then
there
what
are
we will
other
do
people
is,
who can throw more light on.
So I think we'll come to you in the second session, sir.
Sure.
Then may I ask Dr. Selvaraj, SG Saima? They're also a strong spinning section there and use a lot of cotton. Dr. Selvaraj, please, a quick comment on cotton. How do you see it panning out? Industry?
Good morning to all. In fact, Vinay Bhai has, given a lot of details. Some more data I thought I will give. See, we have, as I said, we have the largest acreage. To be specific, we account 37% of world cotton acreage, and our production is 24-25%. And we are number one in cotton producing countries. Of course, as he said, the yield is only around 460 or 470 kgs as against 775 to 800 kgs of world average. Barring India, even the world average will be more than 900 kgs. So this is where we are working now. And the consumption, we consume about 20%, 21% of the world cotton production. So we are as he rightly put it, we are next to China. We are second largest consumer, but we have fully excess cotton in our country. We have become a cotton surplus country. However, there is a mismatch in the quality parameters, especially the staple length. BT technology, when we went 2013, our technology, we had only in medium and long staple, especially long staple. So today, originally India was producing cotton suitable to produce count ranging from 2s to 120s, especially 10s to 120s. And you add 22 mm, 24 mm, 26 mm cotton suitable to produce coarser yarn. But today we produce such coarser yarn only using the cotton waste, especially comber nile and flat strips, especially the with the open end spinning. And ring spinning, we limited volume only we produce. And today the country produces almost I would say around 100 and almost 80% of the cotton is in this particular range of staple length. I would say that is the medium and long staple. Therefore, as rightly mentioned by Mr. Vinay, we are facing shortage in ELS cotton. Though coarser count we are able to manage with waste cotton, extra long staple, that is superfine count, we face shortage. So we have been depending on imports, and we have established a very good market in superfine count yarn, fabrics and products globally, and we are a market leader in bed linen as far as this particular cotton is concerned. But in this budget, as he rightly put it, the 10% duty, is will make us uncompetitive. Therefore, in fact, City Chairman Mr. Rajkumar also is there on the thing. Yesterday, he met Honorable Finance Minister and also the officials. So they asked for some more data, which we have provided today. And we hope, they will at least exempt ELS cotton from the import duty. And this particular cotton is not produced by farmers. And in fact, if you take our imports, we import only 2% when you are this thing, in the whole production, if you take. And whereas we export around 11%, our export is around 11% of the world exports I'm talking. Imports, again, we constitute only 2%. Even in our total volume, we import only around 3 to, in our consumption, only 3 to 5% only we import, around 11-12 lakh bales. Other than the year whenever you have the domestic cotton price ruling higher than international price, that, and also some shortage in cotton, that has happened only 2 or 3 times in the last 10 years. So going forward, as far as cotton is concerned, in fact, the Cotton Advisory Board already prepared a detailed report for technology mission on cotton too, because the cotton technology, BT technology, whatever you are having today, it expired in 2012. So last 8 years, we do not have the latest technology, and we'll have to necessarily go for the latest technology, high density planting, and drought tolerant, and also this Roundup technology kind of technologies we need to go. So consolidating all these things, we have already submitted a proposal to the government, and the Ministry of Textile also has recommended to earmark funds for Mini Mission 1 and 2, looking at technology development and technology transfer. Mini Mission 3 and 4 will be handled by Ministry of Textiles, which already Ministry of Textile has submitted a proposal. We recently had a meeting also with a initial budget outlay of around 400 crores and bring at least 100 lakh bales clean cotton, Nirmal Cotton Mission. So that is the area where the government is moving out. And another thing is specialty cotton also. Government, we have already submitted a proposal. They likely to come out with a budget exclusively for specialty cotton, that is promoting ELS cotton. And City and SIMA, we are also into cotton development and research activities. We have been promoting, extra long staple, training farmers and all. SIMA CDRA was established in the year 1974. We produce genetically pure seeds and directly supply to over 1 lakh farmers. We have been supplying. Even now, we have about 25,000 farmers under our direct control. And recently, we are venturing into even contract farming, and we have also planned to go for BCI, as an implementing partner. That also we are going to submit a proposal. Of course, that is another thing which is happening. And the yield, yes, definitely irrigation is a problem. We are depending on rain, but still we have got tremendous potential to improve our yield. And going forward, definitely India is going to be ruling the world in cotton textiles. Already in our total exports, cotton textiles account around 75 to 80%. And cotton has been our engine of growth for India. And Texprocil has been doing excellent work in promoting cotton textiles, and that is the reason even in yarn export, we are number 1 in the world. 25 to 27% we are having, after even fully meeting the domestic demand. And coming year again, the acreage with the attractive MSP, already we have around 130 or 133 lakh hectares. I don't think the area will go down. The area will remain same. But even with 120 lakh hectares, we had produced close to 40 million bales of cotton. That is 398 lakhs we produced in the year 2013-14. So definitely we have ample scope to produce around 400 lakh bales in the coming year. And pricing, yes, as mentioned by Vinay Bhai, I think it will, because the trend today, if you look at it, is ruling high. And since majority of the stock will be with the trade and mills, and the new season, it might drop to a certain level, but end of the season, the prices will be higher only. We have already requested the government to maintain some buffer stock so that the price stability is maintained, at least for the MSMEs. So this is the position. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think what we can do, Mr. Vinay Bhai has to leave shortly. If there are questions, I don't know, how do you want to handle it, Anchal?
Maybe we can just do a quick question on this particular question of if anybody in the group would have any question pertaining to cotton and its pricing. And probably I'd begin with this, Dr. Rajagopal. One of the questions I would have with Mr. Kotak is that, I mean, the facts that he has presented to us are really, really revealing of the impact that we are seeing on the cotton. At one end, we are saying we don't have enough cotton because CCI has hoarded the cotton. On the other end, the import duty situation is not such that it is in our favor to really export competitive cotton made ups. We all understand that the buyers don't make short-run decisions normally, and especially buyers who are buying big volumes, and when they have to make long-run decisions, then if all such issues do impact their long-run viability of staying in India or leaving India. So as our chairperson, Mr. Patodia, very well said that we have to work towards improving exports and we have to work towards the situation. What are we going to do in such a situation where we are actually not competitive against the world market? And we're still expecting to be able to export better? Because I think one of the major issues that every buying agent faces today is that we have a lot of pressure to promote the product, but the product is not competitively priced as far as the other countries of the world is concerned. We understand that it is not only an exporter issue, it is more of a government issue, as very well pointed out by Mr. Kotak and also by Mr. Selvaraju. So what is the way forward? Because a lot of customers I know have deviated their productions to other countries. What are we looking at? Because the short run, it does not look like there's going to be much of reprieve. If CCI has hoarded the cotton, we are not getting that back from them. So what is it that Texprocil, members of Texprocil, maybe the textile ministry, what are we looking at in the next 6 months? That's a short run question. Long run, obviously, Mr. Kotak has already addressed that once the CCI does not hoard as much as they're hoarding today, and if the government is able to support on the import duty, we will be able to salvage the situation. But is there anything in the short run that we're looking at in terms of help?
Vinayji, I think you can quickly come in on this. This is a perennial question we face every time when the season is ending. आप unmute करिए sir. Please unmute sir. Unmute. Vinay ji, हाँ.
Vinay ji, you're not
muted.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think up to at least November end, I don't think we'll have a big price fall in the market because the new arrivals will begin only in a pressure with November. So till November 15, I'm not very hopeful of prices to go down below, I think 2-3%, maximum 2-3%. If the crop looks good, there will be a sentiment impact. And I think then price can go down by 2-3%, but I don't foresee any big reduction till November 15. And this is also subject to weather in the world market because we are the second largest exporter in the world. If something goes wrong in the weather in Brazil or USA, then the ice futures will jump up to more than 90 cents. And in such case, Indian exports will become again very competitive. So then if that happens, so again, November 15 onwards, also market may not so much go down because even the Indian rupee has started depreciating and the gap of competitiveness is reducing.
Okay. Vinay ji, we wanted some assurance. This is not very reassuring as to what
Vinay ji, I mean,
it's all weather driven. I said very clearly, the cotton crops are weather driven now.
Yeah.
Can't help it.
No,
we have to pray. Only thing we have to do is we have to pray God weather to be nice.
On the broad point, I think, unfortunately, the competitiveness on cotton products, which India had over a period of time because of cotton prices, I think as we are going up forward, we are seeing that we're slowly losing that competitive edge. I mean, this is what we are seeing across.
Right.
And then, of course, as he rightly said, it's a commodity. Manoj sir, Chairman Texposil sir, would you like to
Yeah,
say something before we move to the other one?
whenever you and I think what one question which you asked about the cotton going forward, please understand, we, as Siddharth said, we are in the end of the season now. So when it's the end of the season, what happens is that whether it's the spinning mills or the integrated mills or any of the mills who are into exports, generally they have a cotton stock going right up to November. You know, because the new crop and in the ELS, generally in the ELS, right? In the ELS cotton, because it comes later, so we generally have crop right up till the cotton is generally available with the mills up to November or December. So most of the mills which are in the exports would have their cotton in place. So that is not a worry that the cotton is not available to them, and they keep on buying in today's prices just to keep a bit of, you know, in the market, and just to keep the stocks going a little bit ahead in case there is a problem in rains. Now, if a rain problem happens, it is not only in India, it affects the world. And Vinay said, what happens if the ice is going up? It is not only going up in the Indian, it's the price of the Indian cotton is going up. It's everywhere in the world the prices will go up of the cotton. So ultimately, for the buyer is concerned, it is going to be fine. So I don't see, I see that the Indian cotton, the Indian textile mills will be highly competitive in the cotton products, at least because traditionally also, because of our spinning also is quite good. And raw cotton, sometimes a few lakh bales plus minus does happen depending on the weather. But overall, I see that India will be highly competitive. Now, coming back to ELS cotton, yes, there is an issue for the ELS cotton at the moment for import. But import is still happening. You see, we are still importing a lot of Pimas and Gizas. We are one of the biggest buyers even today, in spite of the duty. We are requesting the government to remove the duty. That is a separate subject which is going on, as our city chairman also met FM yesterday, and I was just talking to him today morning. He said that already the discussions is on and we are hopeful. But otherwise also we can import under advanced license and we can still export. So there is no problem at all. So where export is concerned, I don't see a problem where even the extra long staple, where India has made their name in Pimas and Gizas and etc., and the wonderful work which has been done by all the exporters. And even so, I don't see a problem there. So I'm very hopeful that the cotton and cotton products, whether right from raw cotton right up to the end product, I think India will and always be a very major supplier to the world market. So I'm quite positive on that, and I see a growth.
Can I put some words?
Anshul, I would like to ask a question, if you permit, whenever the panelists are done with their.
Sure, Sanjay, we take a minute.
Vinay, you wanted to say something, Vinay?
No, I'm just saying, I'm very optimistic about Indian textile mills. I consider it now is an IT time of textile industry in India. You see, because that world over, there is an anti-sentiment about China. The demand is 100% going to shift to India on one hand. On other hand, China also wants to maintain their share in the US and Europe market, whereas there is a ban on the cotton use products made out of Xinjiang cotton because of the forced child labors. In such case, China also would like to import gray fabric and yarn from India, make finished product, and try to maintain their share in the world market. So we have, on the both hands, we will have an increase in demands. And we are the second largest producer. So we have a cotton. We are also the second largest producer in man-made fiber. So we have a raw materials at our doors. So I foresee a very, very good time for Indian textile industry.
Dr. Siddharth, I would like to supplement a few points here. So as rightly mentioned by Mrs. Anchal, I think we need not bother about short run, because our closing stock will be minimum 130 plus lakh bales. We have been quite competitive even with a closing stock of around 35 to 45 lakh bales all along. If you look at last 10-15 years, our stock level has been anywhere between 35 to maximum 70 lakh bales. So last 2 years already we carried over 120 lakh bales. Coming year also our closing stock will be more than 130 lakh bales. We have cotton, number one. Number two, since we are the largest producer of cotton, and number two is whatever may be the weather, our production will not go below 360 or 300, bare minimum I'm saying. It won't go below 360 lakh bales. It will be 360 plus only. And our consumption is around, with the pandemic situation, the consumption might be lower for a couple of more months, but still even normal consumption of with 310 lakh bales, still we have surplus cotton. And today our cotton is the cheapest, though the price has increased by 30-40%, but still we are the cheapest. And yarn, cotton, both we are quite competitive. So we don't foresee any lack of competitiveness for our exporters, and our buying agents, they need not have a second opinion even in the short run. That is my view.
I think, Anchal, I think we have I think we have had the lady wanted to ask a question, Ms. Sandhya, because one of our panelists
Yes.
would like to have an appointment at 12:25 was handling organic cotton. So I'm not very sure. Yeah, madam, go ahead, please. Try to deal with this. Go ahead. Anchal,
Okay.
go ahead.
So good to hear that you're all sounding very positive and optimistic about the cotton situation and the availability of yarn. But just that increase of 30-40%, which you all consider normal, and you say that it's still the cheapest, we are still the cheapest in the world, is not, of course, okay and comfortable as far as we are concerned, because our pricing is completely affected by that. So 30-40% increase in cotton yarn prices does immediately affect our commodity, our made up price. That's for number one. And we are getting a lot of negative feedback from customers where India is, of course, strong, we would get the market, but where there is any other country in close competition, we would lose the market. That's my first input. And so I would just like to let you know that from our customers' point of view, it is a problem. And the question Anchal asked about the short term is very important, because we are busy now, all of us, all my buying agent fraternity is busy negotiating and finalizing our prices for the next season, which is fall 21, and also immediately, fall is pretty much closed, more on summer 22. And if we are not able to give them any great pricing till November, that means we also have a bad summer 22. A negative summer 22. That's number one. And number two, I'd like to know the trend. One of the panelists mentioned that we are still not, we have not still exported to our capacity, exported the cotton yarn. So the feedback I'm getting from my network, my exporters, is the people we work with, is that we are now diverting more cotton towards the export. And when that happens, there is less cotton available for the exporters to be able to buy at competitive prices, and perhaps the best cotton is getting exported. So what is the thinking in the minds of the key players? Is export of course the returns on export are much better, we understand that. So is export the priority, or is the consumption by the local community, the export community, towards, so that they can buy cotton as a raw material to be able to then convert it into a made up? Is that a priority for you?
Just answering to one of your questions, Sandhya, we've already determined that summer 2020 is not going to be our best season, because as we've already heard from Mr. Kotak and Mr. Selvaraju, there may be a lot of cotton, but the pricing isn't coming down up till November.
Yeah.
When it's not coming down to November, there's no way in which we can have a good pricing for summer 2022. So that question seems answered already. With respect to your question regarding the third part, Dr. Rajagopala, would you like to take that up right now? Would you rather take up the organic cotton issue first and then take up?
I think, can I make a small request, ma'am? If we have got one or two experts on organic cotton, which was also a burning issue. So one of our senior panelists wants to leave. So if you give us an opportunity, we can come back, because this is a discussion which is going on the price of the yarns and the cottons, and how it has had a cascading impact on the apparel and the home textile sector. And in Texpostal, we are very well seized of this matter. So how to address this is one of the major issues, which is before all of us. I do appreciate that. Chairman Texpros will appreciate that. Maybe he will sort of give it up. He will give a response once we have gone through one or two of the. At least let us finish the organic cotton part of it, if it's okay.
No
And maybe on the specific efforts of Texpros, the chairman can clarify how we are going to handle this issue about rising prices. Because one thing we have seen, and this has been reported everywhere, and as Mr. Kotak also said, that you see our cotton prices with internationally continue to be, competitive. I mean, that is there is an index there. So therefore, one advantage we have. And of course, this is a larger issue or deeper analysis. But can I, with your seek your indulgence, to move on to the second portion, Anchal, so that we can have our panelists to come in?
Sandeep, we'll come back on this question in later.
Yeah, we'll come back. We'll address it. This is not going to be left unaddressed. We'll be rest assured before we leave this place. Anyway, so coming to the second section, may I request on organic cotton? I have Mr. Amit Shah. He's from Spectrum International. He represents a company which has been in this business for almost. It's an 80-year-old family textile business, and he has been working very closely with farmers and with the brands. And he's one of the person well positioned to talk on organic, and he has also to leave in about 10 minutes. So may I seek your indulgence? Amit ji, can you come in, please?
Sure, Siddharth. Thanks so much. Thanks. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
All right. Thank you, Texpros. Thank you, BA. A lot of friends on this panel. So thank you so much for inviting me over and to listen to whatever few thoughts that I have to share. Organic, just to give everybody an understanding, has always been a very niche market, close to 1 to 2% of the entire cotton trade. It forms part of a larger umbrella of fibers that come under a larger scope of sustainable fibers, which includes everything from organic, fair trade, BCI, recycled fibers, and so on and so forth. In terms of the global market, so in organic, always you will hear this terminology of official figures, and then what our figures would be. So the official figures, whilst might be lower, my own estimate is that the global market is roughly about 4 to 5 million bales. And whilst officially, again, India is supposed to be around 51% of that supply base, according to me, we were almost close to 99% of that supply base globally. What has happened over the last 1 year is a mix of two things. On one side, most brands which are globally known in the sustainability field, be it H&M, C&A, Marks and Spencers, IKEA, Inditex, they have all got very clear projections of converting all their products to sustainable fibers by different dates, anything ranging from 2018 to 2025. So there is definitely an upsurge in demand of sustainable fibers, organic being one of the more premium fibers in that category. The second event which has happened is that, yes, there were certain suppliers and certain dubious supplies, which because of the strengthening of the standard systems, both in India and abroad, that they have been filtered. But what this has done is it has brought the supply, in my opinion, down to about almost 2 million, which is a reduction of quite a massive reduction, and which is the reason why we are seeing this massive upsurge in prices over the last 1 year. Now, this will not last forever, because naturally whatever will find its way as demand has been constant. One, people will switch to other alternate programs like BCI and recycled. People are also exploring what is known as in-conversion organic, which is because organic, as you may know, takes 3 to 4 years to be called organic. So people are also picking up fibers in the first, second, and third year. And of course, a lot of projects in the pipeline from good suppliers that will turn organic over the next 2 to 3 years. So this will be a declining premium situation. However, in the coming year, we don't see a very massive decline because organic can't be brought into picture overnight. It takes that 3-year cycle for it to happen. So this is a surge that of the kind that at least I've been in organic now for 22 years. I've never seen in my life this kind of a surge. And I'm sure brands are also exploring alternatives to this phenomenon. As far as India's position is concerned, we were and we will remain leaders in organic supply. because even with that reduction, the fact is we still remain, close to at least 60-70% of the global organic cotton supply. So this is just to give you an idea on, why the events have transpired, how they've transpired, putting it in perspective with the global scenario, and also looking at the coming year and maybe a couple of years ahead. Organic also spells a kind of a transition of how, according to me, procurement is changing. Whereas Avinash was saying before that, brands are now coming down all the way to farm level. I mean, 2008-9, it was impossible for me to even get an appointment with the brand. Now they are all coming in to, look at sourcing right from the field. So this is another fundamental shift in the textile industry. And I think more and more you will find this linkage between brands and retailers coming down all the way and contracting through the supply chain. So I hope that gives people some idea on how organic and why it has behaved the way it has behaved, and some idea on the numbers. I'll be happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you very much, Amit ji, for your intervention. I know you have been very active in the field of organic cotton. We have got two other eminent people here. One is Avinash Karmakar, as I mentioned earlier, Vice President Farm Initiatives, and we have Mr. Binay Kumar Chaudhary, the Chairman of Control Union, the person who is responsible for issuing these certificates. So I think, I don't know if anybody wants to say anything, because Amit ji has to go. He told me he had some commitment in the hospital. So if anybody wants, otherwise we can finish this on, we can deal with any queries later and we can send it offline to him. Anchal, what would you like to do?
I can just open the house for questions. If anybody has, if you could
Yeah,
raise
I
your
have
hand.
a question. It's a slightly stupid question for Amit Shah ji, but can you just define organic cotton for us?
Sure, never stupid questions, only stupid answers, I guess. No, I think, so organic as defined, and of course I have Dr. Chaudhary sitting here, who is the expert on the technical sides of certification. But essentially, in its, so there are two definitions. One in its philosophical sense is a system of farming that kind of balances everything within nature and uses everything that is natural, where you bring the entire ecosystem in a balance. From a standards perspective, it is a cotton that is grown without the use of any chemical pesticides or fertilizers, or the use of any genetically modified seeds, and that uses help of other organic practices, from soil to water management to pest management, to grow the cotton.
Thank you.
There you are. We'll also have some Dr. Chaudhary to expand a little when he comes in. May I ask Avinash ji, can you come in now, sir, and share your experiences from the farm on organic?
Before Amit ji leaves, if I would just like to make a small, it's
Please
more
go
of a comment, in fact, compliments to Mr. Amit Shah, because he gave us in very short lines a brief perspective of the current organic situation in India. And it's true that it concerns a lot of us, because we deal, a lot of the sustainable, the organic products. Just one feedback that we have.
You are not audible.
Yes.
Your voice is completely cracking up in between. So if you could slow down.
Is it better now?
It is better, but it's still cracking.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to let Mr. Amit Shah know that I compliment him for his brief and clear, precise feedback on the organic situation.
Not
a small feedback too. Still not audible?
No, your voice is cracking up.
Gosh. Okay. Maybe I'll try later. Is it better now?
I mean, I can hear you, but it's all cracked up.
Can you try switching off your video?
Yes, I'll try that, Vishal. Better now?
Not really.
Is it better?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll use Aristide's.
It's better.
I'll just use Aristide's system and come back. Yeah?
No, you're good. You're good right now, Sandhya. You're good.
Sorry, good to go now?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so just wanted to let Mr. Amit Shah know that he really spoke very well. In brief, he's given us a very good, situation of the current picture of the situation, and it, of course, is not very hopeful again, because doesn't give us a good optimistic picture for the immediate future, but let's hope that situation does settle down. One quick feedback about the in-conversion farming. We had shared this option with the customers who are big on organic products, and in fact 100% of their products are organic ex-India right now. When we discussed this with them, their feedback was that they weren't very convinced, even though we were able to complement the productions with a full documentation, but whatever transaction certificates we shared with them was not giving them much confidence. And so they said that we would then give break to India for 2 years or so till the time your non-organic production converts to organic, and then we would rather come back and buy it. So that's one feedback I would have liked to share with you. Don't know what we can do about it, but yeah, thought it's important to put it up to the forum. Thank you.
Amit ji, a quick response?
No, I think the move to go to in-conversion has been very recent. I agree, it's a big philosophical change and a fundamental change for brands too, because it involves going all the way to the storefront. Whereas organic is 100% product guarantee of something that is chemical free. In-conversion really isn't that. So it's for a lot of brands to decide, and they are at a precipice. So some like Inditex have already gone for that. Some haven't. Some are looking at other options. So you're right. This is something that's honestly has been forced upon them to do, and they are dealing with it in their own way. But I'm hopeful that with every passing day, I hear more and more brands moving towards options of IC1, IC2. So my suggestion would be, keep talking to brands. As I said, Inditex is one that's already gone for it. I'm hearing that there are other brands in the pipeline that may be also looking at that. But of course, within these brands, as you might know, that there are a lot of verticals. So some verticals might go for it. So bottoms and you may find denim has not gone for it, and knits have gone for it. So that's something that we need to figure out.
Perfect. Okay. In case any of the brands need some clarifications or need some more, input, is it possible that we take one of you, with us online and kind of have a meeting with them where you can kind of explain them?
I'll be more than happy.
Give them more confidence.
Siddhartha has my coordinates anytime. Please feel free.
No problem. We will assist. Anybody wanting any assistance, more than happy. With the panelists available with us are all available to all of you. Because our objective is to see that a proper picture is presented and everybody is on the same page. We'll do that. No issues on that. So any other question for Amit ji? Because he seems to, we would have loved to have him till the end of the session today, but he has some other commitment. And,
sorry, I need to run. But thank you all so much. If there are any other questions, please drop in an email and I'll be happy to reply at that time.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone.
Now may I request Avinash ji, and then of course we have Dr. Binay who will come in. Avinash ji first, sir. Please come in, sir.
Thank you, Siddharth.
You're on the farm, right?
Yeah, thank you, Siddharth. In fact, Amit has explained almost everything, but just to iterate one thing, like as the Kotak ji was telling, like what we can do, we can just pray for the good crops. But that is not the business, just praying to God to make the business good. So we need to do something from our end. In that context, entire brand community, they are now investing to face this challenge, that is the climate. So for that, this sustainable commitment, the commitment to procure sustainable cotton is increasing leap and bounds. So every year they are committing to buy more sustainable cotton. So there is going to be really good future in sustainable cotton, even in this, as Amit said, organic cotton fetched good prices. And it really becomes important for entire buying agent community to understand this supply chain, where they can connect their clients to the farm groups, and then the pre-commitment, buying pre-commitment can be made to the farm groups, and then pre-commitment as far as the quantity is concerned, at the same time, even pre-commitment for the additional price which they are paying to the farmer, and at the same time buying on the MSP. So this is going to be a big impact, and understanding this part of the system would really be, though it is a niche, but really important for all of us to understand this. So this is something I just wanted to highlight in this supply chain. That's it. More for Binay to address on this issue. Thank you.
Okay, fine. I think any other, shall we then call in Dr. Binay Kumar Chaudhary, sir? Control Union Chairman, sir. Yes, sir. Must give us a perspective on what's going on.
Namaskar. And
Please come in.
I thank you very much for giving me a chance to speak on this occasion. And you are all the market leaders, so it is my fortune to speak all the things in front of you. To start with that little bit history, that how we started organic cotton in India and what could be the perspectives in future. We started the journey in 1994 when we started first fiber to be certified under organic. This has given a world. We spoke to the various global forum that we can save almost 35% of the chemical that is going to put and carcinogenicity that comes to the farmer. And in this way, organic cotton started spreading. And the eco-sustainable textile, we started first organic eco-sustainable textile by Control Union, the then called SCAL International. We started with something around 500 to 600 bales in 1994 to 96 with few people. And in 2002, the NPOP standard came by Government of India. And that was a milestone. The same year, genetic cotton came to country. So there is a challenge because organic does not accept genetic modifications, and that challenge we have started from that. And in 2014 and 15, we landed up something around 5 to 6 million bales of organic cotton. A lot of fraudulent was there. You will be happy to know that India was standing almost 90% in the world scenario about the organic cotton. This has given a good chance to speak in the world forum that India is still the market leader on the sustainability, and we are the source from the innovation from that. Apart from India, you have some China, that is Xinjiang province, which was giving around 60,000 metric ton. Now it is banned because of the social has been put forced by the US. Then you have Turkey. Turkey was a non-GMO country which was positive, but the cost was very high. But Turkey has taken a lead role now because of Kyrgyzstan, because there are a lot of certified cotton is coming from Kyrgyzstan. And there are few certified cotton from Afghanistan, Myanmar, Syria, and all these countries, which was negligible. And US, you have a Texas cotton, which was also giving few brands to suffice. So moreover, we are just contributing 90% of the brand's need. So if you look into the 2020 figure, and this was exposed, so India got a very bad name in the front of organic, when we saw that a lot of transaction certificate has been faked by so many certification body. This was due to the integrity loss that some of the people that came into market earlier, 3 or 4 certification body was taking a player. But if you see the NPOP, which was the basic source, almost 32 certification body is playing the roles. Similarly, in GOTS and TE, we have got a lot of certification body playing a role. So in this cotton concept, we started working on Suvin cotton, MC5 and DCS 32, which is a long staple cotton. And we found that there are a lot of value addition has been given to organic cotton. So when all of a sudden this exposure of fraudulent happened, so immediately I was part of the movement to stop that, because India should not go with a very bad name. So the certification body, who were talking 3 or 4 certification body who were talking about last 3 years fraudulent to be withdrawn. And I think Mr. Amit Shah, Avinash Karmakar was there. I was talking almost 57 buyers to hold the things. And we just come down to from 3,000 transaction certificate to just 79 TCs. And this 79 TC transaction certificate has got 3,200 connections and 17 countries. So you can understand, and 57 buyers. So convincing 57 buyers with this much of impact was very actually, it took me a lot of depression mode to find these things. Then we started talking with the brands that what could be next, how brands are very much dependent on India, and brands believe that India fills the gap on sustainability. With the trust in that, we started convincing a lot of people to take the options of in-conversion cotton. So basically the second year and third year in-conversion cotton plays a major role. So we tell that the farmers is making 3 years conversion period. So being a brand, you should be responsible to help the farmers. So today, that's what you see that in-conversion cotton is there. But what is happening with the brand? One of the question is that why the brands are not accepting this kind of in-conversion cotton. The problem is that we are just making a lot of transactions with paper rather than in field. So this gives a havoc to the brands. So if we give a good traceability and good lot of truthness in the ground, then brands is going to commit with in-conversion cotton. And today, the official figure stays at something around 700,000 bales are certified organic. So yesterday I was with APEDA. I found the right number called 7.998 lakh hectare of organic cotton is cultivated in this country. So when you tell 7.98 hectares, it is almost 16 million, like 1.6 million acres. So 1.6 million acres means it is almost 1.6 million bales. So you expect around 1.6 million bales to be into the organic cotton scenario. And what we did, we were talking to the buyers that the IC1 cotton, the first year conversion, which is not called exactly in conversion, but it is called first year conversion. So now we convince the standard owners, textile exchange, to accept it under the organic content standards. So you will also get a lot of queries in future because we are just starting with 1-2 brands. So I expect that we are dealing with 120 plus brands who are into the sustainability. So you will also find interesting stories on in conversion 1 cotton, that is first year conversion cotton. So in that way, some brands also find that the cost, what premium they are going to give is almost 60 to 70% at cotton level. And this is making their plan for the sustainability is very bad. But at the end, if you look to the garment level premium, it is hardly 20 to 30 cents that differs in organic cotton. As you know that a lot of retail stores are closed and online marketing is going up. You see that Amazon is closely working with us and they started e-retailing, like e-purchasing, e-selling. So in this case, you will find a lot of buyers will come to electronic platform where the selling will happen in electronic ways. So a lot of sustainability will come on the e-commerce platform. So we are also working with the brands to talk about that, how to increase the organic bio-cotton scenario from this country. So for all these people, we should know that we have got 3 risks. One is paper transactions, that is fraudulent. Second thing is genetic modification, because 98% of Indian cotton is contaminated with genetic modification. For all your knowledge, genetic modification, we have got 6 to 8 strains that has been potentially active when Michael Monsanto came into actions in the year 2002. And this genetic modification has also contaminated to our existing non-GMO crops. So when you talk about DCH, Dharwad cotton hybrids or MC5 or Subin, so because these are all produced in the vicinity of GMO cotton, sometimes we see that a lot of our non-GMO cotton has got slight bit contamination into the genetic trial. So I request Texprosil and SIMA to take some actions on that, how the genetic purity in this cotton, because this is our heritage. And this cotton is going to beat with Pima and Giza cotton. And if you will certainly work on the integrated nutrient management, because the staple length and nutrient management is very well correlated. So we should look into that so that we'll get a staple length between 31 to 43 in India, so that we can compete with Pima and Giza cotton. And we also find that there is a rules change recently by USA. So United States Department of Agriculture, which has standard called NOP, National Organic Program, has withdraws the equivalency regulations with NPOP. So from July 12, 2021, you will not find that NPOP, NOP will play a major role. So most of the people has to directly certify under the USDA NOP program. So any garment who is selling to US, they should go with USDA NOP fiber certification with those certification body they are doing with USDA NOP. This will give a big impact because under the NPOP NOP regime, we have got several certification body who are doing NOP certification in India. Now only 3 or 4 certification body is going to rule this total whole chain. So maybe a lot of spurious things will come down, but there will be a pressure on the quantity that will be exported to the US or Canada. Third thing is that Government of India was started with ISOT, Indian Textile Standard, but it was stopped. Later, Government of India started NPOP, Extended Textile. So I was in APEDA and we are talking about that. I think government is again interested. They have given permission to us to start NPOP textile. So to improve the traceability and integrity in organic cotton. So this is for all your information about the organic cotton that is happening in the country. I will give only half a minute about the recycle. In the year 2006, Control Union, we started the recycle cotton. And in this recycle, we thought that India will be a major player in recycle. So today you should be happy that, you know, lot of cutting waste from the textile factories is also coming as organic. Lot of comber oil is also coming as organic. And this is giving a lot of value addition to the process. So, and if you look to the polyester resin, a lot of polyesters is coming on the recycle. So you have got 4 woolen. Wool is also coming to the recycle. Nylon from the fishing nets is coming from recycle. So the value addition you will also find with the other fibers. And we have also started fibers like capo, jute and other things to be an organic list. Next, another half minutes I would like to talk about the sustainability. In future, people will talk if the cost of organic cotton will not be stable and fluctuated and the demand and supply will have a huge gap, the brands will shift towards new concept. Now people are talking about carbon positive cotton. You must have known that in Australia, this cotton has been started and there is a carbon positive cotton. So people will look into such aspect in future. So India must be ready to talk about carbon positive cotton within 1-2 years. Then there is a climate smart agriculture. So there are a lot of fundamental regions are coming. Next 5 years is called climate smart agriculture. I know that a lot of guests were talking about the weather, but based on that, we have started a lot of process. We have started new concept called regenerative agriculture. So regenerative agriculture is a find between sustainability and organic. Earlier, between conventional and organic, sustainability was coming. That's what you see Better Cotton Initiative, you see Real Cotton. There are a lot of sustainability. Now you will find regenerative agriculture in between sustainability and organic in place. So this kind of system will come where regenerative agriculture, carbon positive, and also some new concepts will come into the agriculture. So India must be ready. I think Texprocil should take this in the front role with the government and make India ready to fight this battle for value additions and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary.
I think it's an excellent presentation, sir. Thank you very much for joining in today and really giving your views. And I think a lot of matter has got clarified and we have really been able to, you know, tie a lot of loose ends. As you know, this debate on organic cotton took place in our country and we've got a lot of people who had a lot of complaints to make. But I'm very happy, sir, that you could come in and clarify many points. Anchal, I don't know, would you like to open it for some discussion now? Any questions, sir? I mean, I think
you have Vishal Narayan Sinha who would like to ask a question. Vishal, can I ask you to come in?
Yeah, so once again, a stupid question from Mr. Binay Chaudhary, sir. Very enlightening what you just said, or what all you told us about organic cotton. But I'd just like to know, how do you ensure organic cotton is organic cotton? And also, you just talked about, you know, locating this stretch of land where you found 7.8 lakh hectare of farming of organic cotton. So what do you have to do to identify that this is actually organic cotton?
Very nice question, sir. I thank you for that. Organic cotton is not new to us. The organic cotton we have grown this cotton before 1980s. All the cotton was organic. We have no defoliator, we have no 2,4-D in place or any herbicides is in place. So today everything is contaminated. So how to find the organic cotton based on the testing? you can do a nitrogen or carbon testing for the organic cotton, where you can still see that there is no pesticide or herbicide has not. So we are very fortunate that this testing has not been happened in organic cotton scenario. So we are not getting caught. And that this chemical is having some half-life period. So this chemical, once the farmer is putting some chemicals, and ginning takes at least 1 month's time in the store, and the harvesting take 3 or 4 harvesting another 2 months time, and the moment it goes to spinning another 1 month time. By that time, most of the chemicals get degraded. They're actually changing the form to metabolites, which is harmful than the pesticide. But unfortunately, one good thing is that we are not testing the metabolites. That's what we are not caught. Third thing is GMO. So genetic modification is very easy to do that, like your corona test, RT-PCR test. You take very small antigen antibody kits to the field, just ground these seeds and dip into the test. So you have got rapid antigen test. Within 2 minutes, you can know that if there is 2 bands formed, it will be GMO. And if it is not formed, it is non-GMO. It is very simple test. And further, you can go for RT-PCR test, where you can still tell that what is it, Monsanto 531 or any kind of race that you can identify. But we are also safeguard, because once the cotton is going to process by so many chemicals like hydrogen peroxides, sodium hydroxides, sodium carbonate. So these degenerate the DNA fractions. Basically, you will not get a DNA fractions because hydrogen peroxide kills most of the DNAs. And that's what, with the help of the standard owners, we clearly told that after the products you are not supposed to. So we are safeguard. That's what organic cotton is still ruling by India, though it is 98% under the conventional regime. Still, we are safeguarding ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. I think, Vishal, that is adequately answered. In fact,
yes, thank you very much.
Extremely enlightening. I must say, it's been a very informative discussion so far. There is one thing that I would definitely like to ask Dr. Rajagopal. We were very excited when organic cotton started, because we were like the buzzword on sustainability and wanted to do, and India being handcrafted and sustainable resource country. And suddenly the prices went spiraling in a wrong direction. So are the price increases in organic cotton also at par with what is happening in the regular cotton, or are there different reasons of a spike that we've seen in organic cotton in the last year?
Vinay Kumarji, would you like to take on a question on price?
Yes.
There's been a huge increase.
I was told that in 2020, there were 6 million bales were circulated as organic cotton. The reality story was 700,000 bales, which is certified organic. The moment fraudulent was exposed, so we clearly see that only 8 lakh bales will come to the system. So because the price was increased, it is 1:5 ratio. The brands have already placed the order, because there were 6 million bales were floating, and the premium was 500 to 700 rupees per candy. And when it came down to 700,000 bales, so there is a 1/10 reduction in the volume. That increase happened from 10,000 candy, 15,000. Now it is almost 35 to 36,000 per candy. So you can believe this has happened. But in the same time also, a lot of people put some efforts to go from 7 lakhs bale to 16 lakhs bales. They started adding it, they started manipulating it. So now it is 16 lakhs bales, and next year, this coming seasons will be around 20 lakhs bales. So you can see little bit decrease in the cost in the initial year. But again, the world is requiring something around minimum of 7 to 8 million bales in the world. So if people are committing for bio, and people are committing for the bio, which was a selling story for most of the brand, then you will find the same kind of demand in this year, current year.
Vinayji, what I would like to know is, there was a sudden shooting up of price as parallel to as what cotton prices shot up in organic cotton in the last 1 year. Since you're saying that the supply has gone up, as against what it was last time. But the pricing decrease has not been in tandem with the increase in supply. So what is still holding up the pricing going back to the original levels? Because the customers got very excited about Indian organic cottons because of the attractive pricing and the sustainability story. The sustainability story continues, but the pricing is not back at that level.
Yes. As long as we reach around 8 million bales of certified organic, the prices will be there, because now a lot of people have moved to Africa. So in Africa, you know, Tanzania, Uzbekistan, some people have moved to Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan was ILO restricted cotton, but it is opening because of GIZ. So GIZ is putting a lot of imports in Uzbekistan. So there may be some opening, but Afghanistan, it is not also possible to open. Pakistan has increased in organic cotton.
Correct.
So if you see that, you know, they have increased by 2.5 fold. I am directly talking to them. And Turkey has taken Kyrgyzstan. So they are almost 1 lakh hectare with one client is increased. This was one of the reasons that, you know, India will be suited up this year. Maybe next year you will find the balance in the rates.
Okay, so I mean, again, here also in the short run, we are not going to get any better prices, but maybe over a period of next 12 months.
I think we are moving in the direction of more and more people taking up organic cotton farming, right? And with this farm law rules being changed, do you see any differences contract farming law rules which have been changed, Mr. Chaudhary, for production of organic cotton?
You know that this contract farming is there from the long time. Actually, government has got different things. We work with PepsiCo for the Lay's chips also. So there is also contract farming over there in potato. So there is a lot of in Gherkin. We have seen the contract farming from last 20 years. So in cotton, if somebody is going with a corporate farming or contract farming, and you will see that a lot of people actually started it. And you will see a lot of changes when the contract farming will be there. And I requested, we started the joining with Pratibha, Arvind, Wellspun, a lot of people to enter into the supply chain. And they have done a beautiful job with the farmers. I hope that you all the giants will step into, and you will improve the integrity and the yield ratios in the further days to come.
Perfect. I think there you are.
Anchal, I have two small questions to ask to Binay Kumarji, very small pointed questions.
Please.
Sure.
Go ahead, please.
Binayji, what would be, since we are talking more and more of conversion cotton and we are all trying to market that option to our brands, would you be able to tell me what percentage of the farmlands has been now dedicated towards the conversion farming?
Currently this year, see, these are all with so many certification body. Basically, I am the center to talk to the brands and standard owners to bridge a gap. Because if we do not work with the industries, certification is my secondary job as a company to do that. But our primary job to work with the industries and make sure that, you know, industry getting the supply of the raw cotton. So we work with so many certification body. I'm sure that you will get between 7 lakhs to 8 lakhs bales of in conversion cotton if you try for that.
Okay. And my second question is, we have a lot of, whenever we try to get the prices of in conversion cotton vis-a-vis the traditional bio cotton from the players, we get some very varied responses. So if you could, coming from the horse's mouth, tell us really what should be the correct difference between a traditional bio yarn cotton price, sorry, and vis-a-vis the in conversion price. What should be the correct percentage?
See, first of all, I would like to tell that the organic cotton concept was wrong, basically, because unless you do not work on the input management, you cannot derive a perfect organic. So what, if you look to the advanced countries like Europe and US, they are working on the molecule levels. Like you talk that if you take 1 kilo of urea and that will be replaced by 36 kilo of cow dung. It is not possible to do that in India unless we work on the certain molecule levels. So what is happening in India right now is a conventional somehow converted to organic. I am sorry being a certification body. Now I am talking as Binay Chaudhary, not as control union. But What we have done, we have put a necklace into that and we made it organic. And there should not be any difference. And it is paper organic 80%, 70%. Another 23, 30 people who are doing genuine organic. They have put funding from the brand. They are genuinely working and they are giving back. So I request all the giants to make your own stuff in organic, which we have started now. Presently, I am working in Salem region with 5-6 people, and they have started beautiful with organic cotton, and they could achieve it. So you can control your price.
Okay, I think that's a good answer. And Anshul, I think we should be moving forward. It's a fascinating subject. We can. There are many questions which remain unanswered. We can take it offline with Vinayji. He has been very, very kind. I think he has been. I think one of the finest discussions I have seen in a long time on organic cotton, and coming from him. So, if you permit, we'll go ahead and take on the third part.
Yes, we'd like to take up the issues, Dr. Rajagopala. If you could just
thank you very much. In that, we have Mr. Nachimuthu.
Okay.
He's from Atlas Exports. He's based in Karur.
Right.
He's also the chairperson of the Karur Exporters Association. May I invite him, sir? Your perspectives from down south on how lockdown is, shaping and helping you or hurting you in your business. Nachimuthu, sir.
You'd have to unmute yourself, Mr.
Unmute yourself, sir. Mr. Nachimuthu?
He's not there, Dr. Rajagopala.
Has he left?
Yes. I don't see Mr. Nachimuthu on the list.
Okay, then maybe.
I think I saw him walking away 15 minutes ago, like 10 minutes ago.
All right, then can I invite our Dr. Selvaraj, SG SIMA, Secretary General SIMA. He's in the south and he knows what's going on. Dr. Selvaraj, please.
Yeah. In fact, this, as far as production in South is concerned, the lockdown still continues. Now this is the 5th week, and only export units are allowed to run partially, from the 2nd week in southern districts. And 11 districts still we have restriction. So 11 district last week we were allowed to run with 50%, earlier 25%, and then initially only 10%. There was also total lockdown. So the cases are coming down drastically. I hope there will be relaxation only in the coming week. And now export units are allowed to run with 50% workforce. So that is what is happening. I think going forward, the relaxation will come, and I think the production will come to normal level. But still, the worker shortage will be there for some period at least, because many migrant workers are the intra-state workers. They have also left, and they all should come back. And domestic units, it will take time to get back the workers. But by and large, I think from next week onwards, the normalcy might start, and it may take another week or two to reach normal level.
Thank you, Mr. Selvaraj.
Dr. Selvaraj, I think, well, I suppose so. Lockdown is something which is a compulsion because of the pandemic. I mean, there is no choice. And they say that the distance you maintain and less contact is helpful for everybody. But there you are, all efforts are being made, sir, to see that local containment zones are created and the impact is kept minimum, even within a state or a region or a district. So well, they're all working hard on this, and we do hope that we get out of this pandemic at the earliest, so that we can all resume normal lives. So Anshul,
Yes.
that come to the last part, of course, on what Texposil is trying to do. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Texposil has been available throughout the lockdown on a 24/7 basis. We are available online now because, of course, offices are shut down. When the normal times were there, we were doing about 15 overseas events per year almost, and regularly we were present right across the world in some of the markets like China, Korea, France, Turkey, Iran, Vietnam, Colombia, India. Texposil has a well-known brand. In fact, a lot of people recognize us as an organization working for the cotton textile sector. We have been in the lockdown period. We did virtual shows, hybrid shows, and in fact, various other events. We have these webinars. We're continuously doing them on subject matter of interest. We have something on Monday coming with the ECGC We'll send you the invite so some of your members can join in. ECGC also is an important aspect. So that we have been keeping ourselves busy. In fact, we have monthly calendars is our office has worked out. Almost every second day or a third day, some event or the other is going on. We had skill training yesterday on the made up side, home textiles, how skill is important. And there was an apprenticeship scheme which is run by the government, which I wish we'll share it with you. Some of your vendors also, you tell them to look at it, although some of them may already be doing it. A very, very attractive program. Then we have, as the chairman mentioned in his speech, we have setting up a B2B marketplace. It is a subscriber based model. We'll share it with you. It's a good idea where we are trying to get the exporters and we are going to send it out to the whole world, all our missions and all the importers who are in touch with us. And this will be widely publicized. It's a marketplace we are creating on a 24/7 basis where we invite both on the export side and on the domestic side for the raw material. That B2B marketplace is there, and I'll urge all of you and your members also to sort of look at it and try to subscribe or get the vendors to subscribe to that. And apart from that, we would like to work very closely with the BAA. I know you're a very active group, and Vishalji and all are known to a lot of us, and we have worked in the past, and definitely how to some of the issues which the chairman raised. Now we are happy today that we got an opportunity to reflect on issues of cotton, organic cotton, which have been there at the back of the mind, price of yarns. All these issues are coming up in one form or the other in our organization as well, because we handle right from cotton to home textiles. So it's not an even story, it's an uneven story. There are these spikes which are taking place, supply, demand, price, and all the time there is this issue of juggling and grappling with all these things. And I can understand that the value added segment, in fact, home textiles is about 48% of our exports. Texpostil represents about 48% of home textile exports. So that's a very big basket. And some of the leading vertically integrated players, merchant exporters, plus others, SMEs, they're all our members. And we do our best to try and service their needs as far as possible. So, well, we are again active on the policy side. Interventions are being made on the RoDTEP issue, on issue of import duty on cotton, on issues, let us say, of GST. We have a grievance cell. Anybody having any issue with the export-import side, on the tariff side, on the revenue side, on the drawback side, we are interacting and we are actually alive to the situation, and we see to it that the problem is resolved. So our office doesn't leave it by just writing a letter. We contact the chap concerned, we push on him, and then we get a reply. Either way, either they are going to be positive about it or they're not able to help us out. But then there is a reply available to all the members, and we do our best to see that. And then circulation of information. And finally, we are at the disposal of BAA. I mean, Dhingra Saab, at your disposal anytime. Anchal and Ms. Christine Rai, we are all there with you, and all your members are free to interact with us on issue. Today was an excellent initiative. I'm very happy, Anchal, you brought it up today, and we were able to get some very good experts who really talked on a subject with a lot of knowledge.
Yes.
And we ourselves learned in the process what is happening. So we can have these regular interactions, and we can identify the subject matter of concern. We try to rope in the people who know the subject, who can give us some advice, give the way forward. And with these words, I would only like to say that, well, all of us right across, whether we have SG Saima, you want to say something, sir? Quickly?
Yeah. Only one point BAA I wanted to just say is that, the Saima CDRA is working aggressively on organic cotton. We are already getting into contract farming also. And as I told you in the beginning, we have close to 1 lakh farmers under direct access. So this is the area where we are working. And of course, we are, along with the Texpostil, we are also working, and the city, we are working closely with the government to address the issue of, this organic cotton pricing and also availability. Thank you.
We've got various agencies at the back end who are all with us, and we're partnering with Texpostil, and we have a very good relationship with all of them. We try to see how best to reach out. And I agree, as I think Mr. Amit Shah put it very well, targets have been fixed by brands. By 2025, let's say 80% of the products must be sustainable or organic, or whatever are the words. So therefore, we have to see, if you are going to survive in the market, you will have to make those goods. Otherwise, frankly speaking, the Turkeys of the world and the other people, even the Kyrgyzstan, it was mentioned, is where the cotton is coming from. And there you are. All kinds of fellows are, trying to, get their act together. And we sitting on a lot of cotton, a huge spindleage, a huge textile industry, and we have to really move forward in unison with all of you and all the other people who are supporting us. So with these words, I would like to take it to you, Anchal, so that we can wind up this.
Thank you so much. In fact, it's been an amazing session so far, and we've learned so much today. I'm sure each member of BA here today would say the same. We take forward the other questions that were put forward by your members, and I'd like to invite our members to answer some of them.
Yeah, that we can have a look. Just put them out.
Yes.
Rakesh,
So,
can you share it on the screen? We have some questions from our side as well.
Yes. So I'd like to invite a few members from our end to be answering this. In the first place, I'd like to invite Mr. Gaurav Gambhir from Rusta. He's country head Rusta. Gaurav, if you can hear us, then would you please unmute yourself and come and answer the first question on general outlook of the market vis-a-vis what is happening today in India and the perspective that we look towards in terms of export of textiles and cotton products from our country. Gaurav?
I don't see him there.
No, he's there. He's there. Gaurav, if you're speaking, then I'm not able to hear you, although I know you are unmuted.
Mute. Yeah.
Gaurav, you're unmuted already. You're not on mute. Gaurav, can I request you to log back in because it looks like there is a connection issue?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Perfect. Gaurav, we lost you again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please. Yes.
Sorry for that. I think there was some technical issue. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a very informative session. Very good. Thank you so much for all the knowledge that was shared. Coming to outlook in Europe, home and home textiles is a fast growing category in Europe. You can see that it has started since the pandemic began, and I don't think that is going to stop. I think it's going to continue in the way. And this channel development to alternative channels is also getting stronger and stronger. So I see a very bright future and a very good future for the home and the home sector, home textile sector from Europe in the next coming years. Coming to a little bit of figures and facts, if you look at Rusta, the company that I work for, we've had a plus 25% in home textiles specifically growth in the last 1 year. And we are expecting similar numbers in the year going forward.
Great. Thank you, Gaurav. I'd also like to invite Mr. Deepak Kaba from 3S Sourcing. Deepak? I do see him on the call. Deepak?
We can move on to the next question. I mean,
yes.
Just one or two words from our friends on the other side, it will help give a perspective. A quick one, that's no issues.
The next one also is on the tariff advantage. Members of Texpressel would like to know why are Bangladesh and Vietnam are looked at as better options to source rather than India. I'd like to actually invite our chairperson, Mr. Vishal Dhingra, to answer this one.
Well, actually, there's nothing much to be said. We all are aware of the fact that Bangladesh and Vietnam, I was in a meeting at the PhD chambers, and we realized they followed up a 10-year plan to sign an FTA with the US. So they did the free trade agreement. They went step by step over 10 years, and they got all the benefits, which India still haven't realized over the past 25 years, because we don't have a plan in place to sign the FTA. The same with Bangladesh. They have had, Bangladesh, I remember almost 35 years ago, and Siddharth sir would know it also. When the Europeans came in, they start teaching them, actually initially, all the Bangladeshis on the jute and the technology. And then they later on moved into cotton and other things. India didn't have that help. We don't have had that help at home. We don't have that help from outside. And again, yesterday we were in a meeting with Minister Piyush Goyal ji, on the issue which recently is being faced by Haryana, where they have actually said the 75% people in the jobs will have to come from Haryana and of the origin of Haryana. So there are 100,000 people actually employed from outside Haryana. So we really don't know how exactly do we handle our own country first and the policies of the government or within the government, and then take them forward. So
Well said,
Bangladesh,
well said. I
sorry,
think
Siddharth.
you're quite right. I think that we are all aware of it, but I think you put it very well. I think going forward, all these are matters of great concern.
Yes.
We can come to the next one. East
Next one,
European CIS. I don't know. Is anybody dealing? Otherwise, we can. That's one area
But
we are
first
trying
of
to
all,
push. You know.
we really don't have too many people today who are
Fair enough.
working with the
Doesn't
CIS
matter.
countries, so we'll skip through that one.
So maybe the last two you could just quickly combine and give a quick reply.
Yes, I would like to speak on that, Dr. Rajagopala. Yes,
Yeah.
it's very important for us today, especially when we are going all virtual. I mean, us being virtual today itself. What we've seen is most important is number one, for us to have a good product, which India is already famous for. Number two, to have a good presentation. This is where India suffers significantly. We have a beautiful product, but we are not able to present it in a way which is attractive to the customer. So that kind of interferes in the selection process. When the buyer can't see a product in the way they would like to, or in the way that can attract their eye, it becomes very difficult for them to make a selection over just a virtual discussion and make selections. And that is one of the key things we've seen, that during these virtual fairs and exhibitions, that is significantly lacking. We're either seeing product pictures which have not been taken well, shot well, which does not really produce much of interest from the customers. Or alternately, the other extreme end that we've seen is that there is beautiful, gorgeous product that is actually there on the shows. But when, as a buying agent, as a representative of the country and of the buyers and of the suppliers, we go back and ask the supplier, do you have the product? The product doesn't exist. Now, there is always a catch-22 that happens from seeing a product in design versus seeing a product in reality. There's always a translation that happens and the meaning of the product changes. So it is very pertinent today that we actually have to put in more effort on designing and on creating new collections which we project beautifully towards our customers. So not only, I mean, there are people who are doing great work in terms of designing new products, but if not represented well on the other end, it yields no result. So these are the two things that we have to weigh out very adequately. And a good product with a good picture is what really we need in today's date, at least for the next 1 year. I don't foresee that buyers are going to travel in the next 6-8 months.
Yeah.
That's a strategy we have to take. If you're going for virtual shows, we've got to have a good real product which is shot really well for the buyers to make a good decision.
Excellent.
Is there any other effective ways to reach new suppliers? You know, we've been talking a lot about brand India. The government, the textile ministry, everybody is talking about brand of textiles, brand India, brand of handlooms, but our suppliers are not talking about their own brands. And that's a sad part. I mean, world over, when we go, we talk about so many brands that have done well, and they didn't start out as brands, as big brands, but they were starting out as small players and then took up. We need to create brands. The suppliers need to create a brand presence. They need to create a brand story of why they are unique. Just creating the same product over and over again will not help. They need to create each story separately. One has to separate itself from the other. If we are 5,000 suppliers selling the same product, we're not really creating a story. That's the brand story of India, not really of the supplier. So
point well taken, very well taken. I think you put it very well. Okay,
and
that's
the third thing is online presence. I mean, that's been our push to all our suppliers, not only on the textile side, but also on the hard goods and the furniture side. We need to create a brand presence. Each vendor needs to invest their energies on an online presence. Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn. These are areas which, you know, for the older companies, it's a little more difficult because we are not geared up mentally to really get into the tech savvy era. But there are youngsters who are doing a great job of it. All you need to do is hire one person to do an SEO, SMO, create a brand story over LinkedIn, Instagram, and Pinterest, and create your brand presence. I think these are three very, very key points that as exporters and as buying agents, we need to think through and put a very strong foot forward to be able to create that awareness and to not lose out in this entire COVID scenario. I mean, everybody else is doing it. Why can't India do it? I mean, we have beautiful products. We just need to pitch it right. So that is what I would say is the 3 points I would say are important for our sales perspective in the current view. And can BA help councils in B2B meetings? Yes, definitely. We can help councils in doing B2B meetings. You just have to let us know what you expect out of us and how we can do this together. So that's probably an offline discussion that I do with TextBrazil, and our members can take it forward thereafter. I think that really brings us to the end of the discussion.
Yeah, I think so.
Unless somebody
Absolutely.
has any questions.
Thank you very much for your very insightful comments. I think we do appreciate. We take this process forward, and I think you are on the ground with all the vendors, and we are sitting here in an organization looking at it from the other side. But we are there all for all of you, and then anytime anything can be taken up, and we will carry it forward. Any questions from the floor? So far, we had only questions from structure from the BA and from TextBrazil. 1 or 2 questions, please. I think we are already running behind. I mean, ahead of schedule, if you like. We've already got a good session today. Any questions from anybody, sir?
Dr. Rajagopala, there were a couple of questions that had come on the chat. So
yeah, go ahead. Will you like to?
This is from Christine. She said that there is a lot of discussion about recycled cotton.
Yeah.
So is there anything that we are, is there any mills that are actually producing yarn? Is there an emphasis on producing the recycled cotton at the moment?
Yeah, there is an emphasis. There are demand. There is inquiry that we keep receiving, but very few of them are really doing it. I don't know whether Vinay Kumarji, are you there?
Siddharth, shall I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
See, actually, Karur is the place where mostly they use recycled, cotton and recycled fiber yarn only. Again, Tamil Nadu, we have more than 4 lakh rotars, open and spinning. 75% of them, they use only, in fact, they import large volume of cut waste, apart from the cut waste, whatever being generated in India. And all these cut wastes are recycled. In addition, we also produce close to 45 lakh bales of waste cotton, which we extract while spinning yarn. These wastes, again, are recycled and converted into yarn. These all come under recycling process, and the majority of these people, whether the yarn producers or fabric or made-ups producers, they're all member of TextBrazil already. So if anybody is having inquiry, they can contact TextBrazil, and in turn, Saima can respond to them. Thank you.
Sir, Rajagopal ji. Hello.
Yeah, from go ahead, sir.
Sir, Cortex, sir, this is Vasu GM Production Cortex, sir.
Yeah,
sir,
Cortex,
actually, you are aware that Cortex is an Apex Cooperative Society, and we are using organic cotton to produce some of our products. And when we go for certification by the control union, they are saying that each weaver in their house has to be certified for this organic cotton production. How to come up the problem, sir? See, we are buying certified organic cotton, and we are ready to dye the yarn in the certified mills. The thing is that they say that we have to get a certificate for individual weaver. So,
okay, that's a good point. Vinayji, are you there?
Hello, sir.
No, I'm asking Vinay Kumar.
Yes, sir.
Can you take this on, sir? Because these are coming from these small weavers. How do they handle this entire documentation? I don't know.
See, there is called OCS certification, organic cotton certification under OCS standard. In that, group of weaver can collect from one center.
Okay,
so
sir.
If you connect with me, my number is there. I will explain you how to solve this problem.
Sir, can I have your number, sir?
9969.
Okay, sir.
00.
Okay, sir.
2860.
Okay, sir.
And another is 9930.
Okay, sir.
453.
Okay, sir.
755.
Sir,
please speak to me. I will explain to you how you can solve this problem. Because
sir,
what?
Your good name, sir?
Binay Kumar Chaudhary.
Vinay Kumar Chaudhary. Thank
He's
you, sir.
yeah, he's in charge of the control union
Okay, sir.
Once for certification. He is the man to really be in touch
Thank
with.
you very much, sir.
So we will also circulate it to all the participants. Anshul, we'll circulate the numbers of all our panelists today. So one can really talk to them also offline and see where it takes. Especially,
Thank you very much,
you know, recycled, yarns and others. There is a regular market going on, but information needs to be shared. So we will organize that. That's not an issue. Huh? Sure. Please go ahead.
There is another question that Mr. Sanjay Kurana had put forward, that we've been facing issues about MOQs of the raw materials for fabric. Every company manufacturer mentions that they need to buy or procure certain MOQ fabrics for programs. Is there an agency which defines or helps in procuring small quantity of fabrics such as linen, organic cotton and cotton?
Agency, but marketplace is one area where we are trying to put this contact point for people, what we are attempting in our B2B contact. But if there are requirements, we can ask, we have been doing that. People have specific requirements, so we will circulate it. We circulate it to all the viewers who are our members, and we try to reach out, who will then get in touch with them. Otherwise, there are these cooperative houses and all that, which will be there, but that is all now on the way out. The National Handloom Corporation, all these used to be there. They were dealing with weavers, but all that. But Cooptex is there, for instance, now, whose members have come in today. We invited them, so we can do. Of course, they are producing the finished goods. But for fabrics, we can try and arrange sourcing. Try to contact people. But there doesn't to be a single agency. That's why this marketplace is being put into place, so that queries can go automatically on an electronic format, and people interested can respond. And there'll be a wide reach to people.
Sir, I would like to add something on this MOQ.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anshul, this is regarding a minimum order quantity.
That's right.
India is one of the few countries which can meet the requirement of the buyers for supplying small quantities. 20 meters, 25 meters, or small pieces is not a problem. The only issue is the price. The smaller the quantity, the price goes up because of the fixed cost and variable cost in manufacturing fabrics or garments. That's why smaller the quantity, the prices are higher.
Wow.
If the buyer is willing to pay the higher prices, definitely company will help.
Great.
And we can also help you to source from the right companies.
No, that's a very valid point for sure, because it's always a subset of quantity and pricing.
Correct.
So that goes
Thank
into
you.
relationship.
Thank you.
Perfectly. Thank you so much on this. Then we have one of the members, Mr. Satwantar Gupta, who's saying, can the list of the certifying agencies be shared? Those who issued 79 fake TCs, direct registration of NOP with USDA from 1st July 21 is only for cotton and for all cotton organic products shipped to US. So basically he's wanting if the list can be shared.
Vinay Kumarji will have to come in again.
Yes, sir. The certification body currently is Control Union, EcoCert, OneCert, and Lacan. These four has done a direct certification with USDA, and there are some CBs who has taken partnering with MayaCert and QCS. So those are US certification body. They have started. So 4 you will get direct certification body who can certify your NOP. Right. And another indirect certification, those who has got a collaborative approach.
Vinayji will take it from you on a mail so that we can circulate this widely so that this question can be answered. Because this is coming in the US in a big way. It's a very good point you made. I hope that clarifies the point.
Yeah. I think it does. I don't think there is any other question left on the panel. If there is anybody who'd like to take up a question, you can come in now, else we'd like to move forward with the session.
I think they can always write a mail to us. We are always there, and all our panelists are also there. They are more than happy to help. Okay.
Absolutely. Since we are nearing the end of the session, I'd like to invite our Joint Secretary, Tanya Bhatia. Tanya, would you like to come for the vote of thanks, please?
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Buying Agents Association, I would like to take the opportunity and thank Chairperson Texopril, Mr. Manoj Kumar Patodia, BAA Chairperson, Mr. Vishal Dhingra, for coming together and initiating today's discussion for the mutual benefit and improvisation of the textile growth from India. A special thanks to Dr. Siddharth Rajagopal, ED, TexProsil. Thank you, sir. We really do appreciate all your valuable input. This was a much needed and relevant discussion between the council and the buying agents who, work relentlessly towards the textile growth in India. Thank you, sir, once again for throwing light on issues related to organic cotton, pricing, availability of raw material, etc. Your perspective and thoughts on these important factors really do hold relevance for our fraternity. I'm sure our members have benefited from this useful information today. On that note, I would also like to thank our General Secretary, Ms. Aanchal Kansal, for the dialogue today, Mr. Sunil Patwari, Vice Chairman, TexProsil, senior persons from the TexProsil, Mr. Vinay Kotak, Director, Kotak and Company, Mr. Nachamuthu, MD, Atlas Export, and also Chairperson, Karur Export Association, Dr. Selvaraj, Secretary General, SEMA, Mr. Avinash, Vice President, Pratibha Syntex, Mr. Amit Shah, Spectrum Industries Private Limited. Thank you, sir, for your valuable thoughts and feedback. A special thanks to Mr. Vinay Kumar Chaudhary for your in-depth knowledge and presentation that you shared with us. I'd also like to thank all members of our governing body, members of TexProsil, and all our BA members for their active participation today. Thank you all. Thank you very much for this knowledgeable session. We really do appreciate each one of your efforts. Thank you. Stay safe and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patodia. Thank you, Dr. Rajagopala. Thank you so much for coming in.
We are available to you all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Siddharth, sir.
Thanks.
Very well. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Patodia.
Thank you, Shaji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Aanchal.
Thank you, sir.